COVID-19 has made Georgia poorer. This is what every recent figure for the pandemic 2020 tells us. Average monthly income, for example, decreased by 6.4% per household and by 4.4% per capita, amounting to 1,100 lari and 321 lari correspondingly, show preliminary data from the Statistics Office of Georgia, Geostat. At first sight, the main component that could be driving the increase in monthly income going forward seem to be remittances. In the first 4 months of 2021, remittances to Georgia increased by 48%. That's roughly around 225 million USD compared to 2020, reaching a record 693 million USD. This year, the largest remittances, 194 million USD, came in April, up 145% from April 2020. According to the World Bank, by the way, Georgia ranks 21st in the world in terms of dependency on remittances. Almost 13% of the country's economy is generated by remittances sent by Georgian citizens working abroad. Without these funds, the size of the country's local demand would have been much smaller. Not only remittances are growing. Look at the first quarter of 2021. In 4 months of 2021, exports increased by almost 20% year on year to USD 1.2 billion, and imports increased by around 10% year on year to USD 2.7 billion. As a result, the trade deficit was up by almost 4% year on year to USD around 1.5 billion. This trend of trade recovery is a global trend. World trade's recovery from the COVID-19 crisis hit a record high in the first quarter of 2021, increasing by 10% year over year and 4% quarter over quarter, according to UNCTAD's Global Trade Update. This means it took 4 quarters after the start of the pandemic-induced recessions for world trade to return to pre-recession levels. Although in first quarter of 2021, the value of trade in goods was higher than the pre-pandemic level, trade in services remains substantially below averages. This is something to keep in mind while talking of Georgia's economic recovery, where tourism and services have a substantial share. In April, Georgia received a total of 82,519 international visitors, which is an increase of 140% compared to 2020, and the amount of money spent by these visitors was estimated at record around 50 million USD since the beginning of the pandemic, up by 487% compared to April 2020. Numbers look promising, but we should not forget that the basis point last year was so low, the change now seems sufficient. However, when compared to 2019 levels, it becomes clear that if the vaccination pace does not pick up, then Georgia is set to lose at least 2 or even 3 years of its development. So far, the expectations of 3 main IFIs in Georgia, World Bank, IMF and ADB, which I have been interviewing very intensively this past several weeks, seem optimistic in that first, all of them agree that times are very difficult and it's not easy for Georgia. Second, all of them believe the recovery period is going to be an opportunity to rethink the type of growth that we see in Georgia insofar that it is widely benefiting a wider population of the country and making Georgia a more robust, more resilient economy in the face of the future shocks. And last but not the least, as they see it, if Georgia manages to come out of this crisis with still a healthy financial system, with adequate foreign exchange reserves despite a depreciated exchange rate and the slowdown in the activity, it won't still be a bad outcome. We will say, so far, so good. This is the phrase that I remembered from the interview with IMF Selim Chakir, and which to me sums up the IFI community attitude in general. Meanwhile, ILO says Georgia is among the top 10 countries, number 10 country in the world globally by unemployment. So my question is so far, so good enough?
Good enough never is. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, good enough never is. That's the main motto of our media, Business Media Georgia. We believe our platforms are highly demanded, both by the taxpayers which is actually the population of this country and business industries, those who suffer both from external and internal shocks. Unfortunately, media is not in a position to eliminate all the risks for businesses, but the feedback what our small team have from you, our dedicated followers and supporters of the business media in Georgia, makes my heart and mind full of enthusiasm with optimism that yes, yet again, ladies and gentlemen, we need to grow. We need to meet our most ambitious, unreachable KPIs as country as soon as we can. We need more growth and investments, which is impossible to reach if we do not begin implementing the most ambitious package of reforms. I mean economic and structural reforms to become once again the most prominent, attractive and advanced place for businesses in the region. By the way, performing our show, the checkpoints, is another part of our internal ambitious plan to cover the regional business news. That's gonna happen quite shortly. So yes, for sure, good enough never is. And meanwhile, while Elena will join me back, the ceremony is about to begin. It's 30th of May and we're running the checkpoints news shortly.
We are BMG. Follow and subscribe for business and economics news.